The new president-elect gets along a bit better with Putin than Clinton. Do you feel any anxiety, any fear, perhaps, that Trump will be the new president of the United States because of his good relationships with Putin?
I don't worry about it. It's possible, right? It would be crazy to dismiss the idea of this guy who sort of presents himself as a big deal maker of trying to make a deal. Now, the president of Russia has previously said on camera that the people of Russia consider me a human rights defender. And regardless of the position that we have on Russian politics, which obviously have a lot of problems, they said Russia is not a country that extradites human rights defenders. But let's say that weren't true. Let's say some kind of deal was made. Let's say all of that turned around and I was sent away. If I was worried about safety, if the security and the future of sort of myself was all that I cared about, I would still be in Hawaii. I try not to look at this as a question of a single election or a single president or even a single government, right? Because we see these things, these threats coming across borders. We see the same thing happening in Russia. They've got this new surveillance law called the Yarovaya package. Russians call it the Big Brother law. In China, on the day of the election, the news was talking about how the Chinese had just passed a new mass surveillance law, and they got away with practically no criticism from the international community because they were clever enough to say that they had modeled it on the United States' own surveillance laws. And because our last two presidential administrations have been saying that these powers were so necessary, they were so valuable, and they didn't hurt anybody, now suddenly they can't criticize these other governments for doing the same thing. And these are the things that we have to focus the most on resisting, not individual cases, but broad social cases. And this is the thing that I think we begin to forget when we focus too much on a single candidate. The current president of the United States, President Barack Obama, campaigned on a platform of ending mass surveillance in the United States. He said no more warrantless wiretapping. He said he would investigate and end criminal activities that had occurred under the prior administration in the Bush era. We're talking about torture. We're talking about extrajudicial killings. And we all put a lot of hope in him because of this. Not just people in my country, not just myself, but people in Europe and elsewhere around the world. It was a moment where we believed that because the right person got into office, everything would change. But unfortunately, once he took that office, we saw that he didn't actually fulfill those campaign promises. Guantanamo Bay, the secret prison in Cuba, which he had promised to close on the first day of his presidency, is still open and likely will be on the last day of his presidency. He embraced the policies of mass surveillance, extended them, and entrenched them. And this isn't to criticize this president particularly. This is not to say Obama is what we should be worried about. This is to talk about a broader point, which is we should be cautious about putting too much faith or fear in the work of elected officials. At the end of the day, this is just a president.